Welcome to the Love Holistic Living podcast, your roadmap to heal and align mind, body, and soul and become intuitive through food, pleasure, and spirituality with your host and Italian friend, Sara. Intuition versus trauma versus your fear response. This episode is all about helping you distinguish between the voice of your intuition versus the fear and the trauma response. Now, as a spiritual healer, I'm going to help you feel it. That's my job with most of my clients. It's like we go down to the feelings, we go down to business, baby. And I'm going to help you do the same. Welcome to the Love Holistic Living podcast, your roadmap to heal and align mind, body, and soul and become intuitive through food, pleasure, and spirituality with your host and Italian friend, Sara. Welcome back to another episode with your host and Italian friend and spiritual healer, Sara with Love Holistic Living. Let's get down to intuition versus fear versus trauma. These voices are completely different, and we've got to take a step back into the process of listening because oftentimes we are not good listeners. I'm not just specifically talking about the words you're choosing. I'm specifically talking about the energy where these thoughts are in the place and the location of where this talk is coming through. And is coming from. All right, so I do and give this exercise to all of my clients. I just want you to know that whatever I give you, I've practiced for years. I never give something that I haven't practiced and or tried myself and that actually, realize that works like magic. So I was in a spiritual ashram, which is a spiritual community for over 5 months. In Australia was when I was 19 years old. That's when I really trained into spirituality. I was meditating 3 to 5 hours a day. I was practicing a lot of silence. I was really practicing not only meditation, dancing, getting to my feminine energy, expressing myself in different ways, going from masculine to feminine. I mean, it's a huge shift. And most importantly, what we were practicing every day was to separate the mind from the heart. Now, easier said than done, but I want you to realize this. The voice of the mind will always come from fear. That is also the voice of the ego, the created identity. In case you don't know what ego means, is the attached identity, I am a black belt in karate. I am a high achiever. I have the ADHD. All of these things. I'm good at dancing. I'm a great dancer. I'm a dancer. Things that you say about yourself, that is the created and or the attached identity. And I'm not saying that you should not create the identity, but I'm just saying realize that's the ego self. And then at the end of the day, we are souls. You are your higher self, who you're meant to be here in order to experience love and abundance and joy and happiness and freedom, right? So the voice of the ego comes from fear, from lack. And trauma works in the same way, which means that when we have brain damage and or there is a blockage in our energy flow, which is called qi in Chinese medicine, it's called prana in Indian medicine. We are beings, so we are born with this flow of energy that flows throughout us. Now, in the energetic body, we have the 7 chakras. And if I'm going into another dimension right now, if I'm giving you too much information, just realize this one thing. You don't need to understand the chakra system right now. You don't need to understand that we have an energetic body. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make videos about the chakra system and the energetic body, right? That's super important. That's where I mainly operate from right now in order to help people heal. And what the most important thing about this video that I want you to take is the voice of your mind is based out of fear. The voice of your intuition which is the heart center, is based upon love and hope, and is a positive reinforcement, is trust. Okay, so the first thing first is about listening. So what I give to all my clients, what I do myself, I did it again every single day for 5 months, more than once a day. I would sit and try to separate the energy that is coming and from the mind. And when I talk about energy, I'm also talking about all of that self-talk that you're having. And I ask myself, I want you to do the same, sit in meditation, ask yourself, where is it coming from? Ask your body, okay, it's coming from up here and it's doubtful and is lack mindset. Okay, so sit for like 5 to 10 minutes and just become the observer of your mind. You will find it fascinating. Because when you stop attaching yourself to the mind, you'll start looking at the mind and be like, wow, these are the stories I've created. And you start detaching from the stories. You just start becoming the observer. And then you start to understand that those are mainly primarily in the mind. Okay, those stories, that energy, that fearful energy comes from the mind. When you start to then, with your eyes closed, move into the energy of the heart, I call it. So drop your self-awareness and your focus into your heart right now. You can do this with your eyes open too. And if you're driving listening to this, do not close your eyes. Make sure that you drop down into the heart center, okay? And feel it. Feel what is that voice telling you. Oftentimes, when we drop down into the heart, the voice changes. It's more reassuring, it's motherly, it's loving. It's a voice of your higher self. It's saying, everything will be okay. I'm not attached to this. I trust. And so it comes back to what portals are you tuning into every single day? And when I was in my masculine and really going off of logic all the time, that was the natural state of being. And it might be yours too, which means that you're more prone, your natural state is you're more prone to listening to the negative self-talk, to the voice of your mind. And when you practice every single day, again, you can do this with your eyes open, drop down to your heart. Every time you're doubting something and you're like, oh, that person doesn't like me, he's not into me, right? She's not into me. I'm never going to pass the test. I want you to pause and say stop. If you've ever watched that Disney movie called Luca, which is about Italy, but I watch it with my kids all the time. And even as an adult, I swear you have to watch it. It's so beautiful. And Silenzio Bruno, right? There is his friend of Luca that says to Luca, because Luca has so many self-doubts, okay? And is coming out of fear because the mom is super over helicopter mom, right? And his bestie, his best friend, the first time they met, they're like, say this, Silenzio Bruno, which means silent Bruno, like shut up. I want you to tell yourself, if you're going into the mind, shut up. It's time to shut up. Like you can say that. And then you drop down and I want you to visualize a light. It's going to come through visualization or it's going to come through a knowing that you're in your heart space. That's where your intuition is going to speak. Okay? Then intuition is a different portal. So first you have to control the mind so that the mind doesn't get in the way. And you understand how it functions. And I call it channels. Like I understand the channel that the mind speaks from because when I get an intuitive thoughts or when I'm doing psychic reading with clients, I've now mastered like where tube, I call it tube channel, is the information is coming from. And to give you more of a deeper perspective here is, have you ever had the evidence of something that you thought that popped into your head, maybe while washing dishes, while taking out the trash, while driving, that became true? For example, you were washing the dishes and you felt like your sister was in pain, or someone, you thought about that friend, and then you discovered that friend went through a heartbreak, or something happened to them, or they won the lottery, whatever, right? That is intuition. Why? Because you weren't thinking. So you weren't controlling the thought. You were allowing it to come through. And oftentimes, allowing for intuition to speak is distracting the mind, because you can't control intuition. You can't control spirit. When you start intuition development, which I teach in my program, you have to step into your feminine and allow for spirit to come to you. And you need to practice listening. You can't demand to spirit to answer me right now. No. You've got to be humble. You've got to allow it. And sometimes it might take a minute, or it might take an hour, or it might take days. And if you have a very powerful mind, I say to people, make sure that you distract yourself. Like distract, go for a run, start dancing, shake it off, play with your kids. If that takes your mind away, whatever helps you to become present in the moment, washing dishes, go and watch a movie, take out the trash, whatever it is that takes you off of the controlling power of the mind, so that intuition can come through. When you have an intuitive feeling or thought, then write down how that feels like. Okay? Like, hey, I was right, and I have an evidence now that my intuitive thought was real, and how did that come through? Okay? I'm going to tell you right now that most people feel, okay, is clairsentience. Intuition is going to speak to you through the body. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel that someone is manipulative because you feel tightness in the stomach. So grab a journal and start writing down all of the things, if you want to start practicing intuition, that you should do, like that your intuition is saying, and that you were right. So you build that evidence, that muscle to be like, I was right. Like, I never liked that friend. And at the end, that friend revealed itself to be a narcissist. Oh, where did you feel that? That was in the stomach. That was in the back. That was in like a pain, right? In your temples. Intuition is very subjective. So how they're going to talk to you is different than how they're going to talk to me. And then write down all of these things. You're going to start decoding it right away. But most importantly is silence the mind, start decoding the intuition. Ask for signs. You're going to feel it first, okay? Unless you're clairvoyant by nature or clairaudience by nature. I was born clairvoyant, okay? Unless you are one of those two, those gifts will come later. You can develop this gift further, okay? Most people, the majority, what I've seen with my clients, they feel it or they have a knowing. Like, I ask them, like, what do you think is the color that I hold in my hand? And I usually, I have something in my hand when I train them that it's colorful, and they get it right. And then I'm like, how do you know? And they're like, I just knew the train was going to come at this time. And I said, okay, it's coming from a knowing. So don't second guess yourself. Okay. The more you're going to be controlling the mind of staying out of the way, the more you're going to start training yourself not to second guess yourself. And then the more you're going to build that trust. Okay. Trauma is the same thing. So trauma always comes from a place of fear. And I mean, there is honestly no doubt of what trauma feels like in the body. Like, you are disassociating. And trauma has a very strong response of you feel out of your body. Intuition, you feel in your body, in your heart. The voice of the fear, you're going to feel it in the mind. So the head space, a lot of the time people are like, oh my God, I feel I have always a headache, and they're very logical. They're very structured. And so their energy is stuck in the mind. And trauma, what it feels like is partially in the gut, but then you're having this association of it's a voice that it's outside of you, because there has been a split where when trauma occurs, a part of your soul, there is a piece that breaks. and it flew away. So there is that piece of the soul that is speaking outside of you. All right. So that's just an introduction. This is a very in-depth concept that I teach during my programs and or in one-on-one sessions with people to get them to come from a place of empowerment. And I tell you, and I tell people all the time, your intuition is your superpower. Once you start to handle the mind, focus on training your intuition, which is a muscle, then nobody can fuck with you. That's what I love. That's how I was able to raise and become more confident in life after the narcissistic abuse and divorce that I went through, is because I realized I was much more powerful in my feminine and through intuition than my masculine. And that can be you. So leave a heart in the comment if this was helpful. And tag me on Instagram at Love Holistic Living. And I'll see you in the next episode. A big ciao.